I wasn't really given any parameters for today. I won't keep you all day, and I hope I meet your expectations, but what I'd like to do is take this opportunity to share a few things with you, a few life lessons learned that I gained from my almost 24 years in the Army. Over a couple of decades, I've traveled to many places, met many different kinds of people, had many different experiences, many of them good, and of course, some of them not so good. Well, from those many different people and experiences that I've had, I came away with 3 general principles that I try to live by and that I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you today. The first one, kind of caveat after the good doctor here, was perspective. We didn't get together before this to talk about that. It just adds validity to the point, I think. By coming face to face and personally witnessing some of the ugliness this world has to offer, I really gained an awareness truly how blessed we really are to be in this great nation. The day-to-day problems that tend to drive, people like you and I crazy, they can seem trivial when compared to the day-to-day life of some of the people around this world. Some of our poorest people in this country live like kings when you compare them to the lifestyles and the ways that some of these other people live, as the good doctor alluded to. Having a clear perspective on things can really help you identify what is really important in life. Some things that we hold to be important or even tragic today, 6 months from now, you're not even gonna care about, especially when it comes to material things. What I've learned is of actual importance in this life is just trying to be the best person you could possibly be. So that raises a good question. How do you define what a good person is? Well, that is of course subjective, but I'm gonna go ahead and share my thoughts with you on the matter. That brings me to point number 2, and that is be a sheepdog. Mr. Farley probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. Let me explain. So years ago, one of my senior leaders shared with me a writing. It's titled On Sheep, Wolves, and Sheepdogs, and it was written by Lieutenant Colonel retired Dave Grossman. You should check it out when you have time, but for the time being, I'll just go ahead and give you the premise of it because it really helped me define who I wanted to be as a person and my role in this world. So basically, there are 3 types of people in this world. There's sheep, wolves, and the sheepdog. Most people in society fall into the sheep category, and I don't mean anything insulting by that. There's nothing wrong with that. It just means that they're regular folks meandering through life, doing their own thing, and if they may happen to cause any troubles or hurt somebody else, it is purely by accident. There is no malicious intent involved. Then there are the wolves. The wolves prey and feed on the sheep. The wolf can be an evil person capable of horrific things, or even just somebody bullying or abusing another person. With the wolf, there is malicious intent involved. They typically tend to prey on those that present themselves as easy targets or victims. And then there are the sheepdogs. The sheepdogs live to protect the flock from the wolf. Being a sheepdog is not easy. The sheep generally don't like the sheepdog because the sheepdog can look and come off a lot just like the wolf. Both have fangs and both have the capacity for violence. The sheep tend to not really appreciate the sheepdog until the wolf comes around. But even though the sheepdog isn't always appreciated and sometimes even chastised and looked down upon for their abrasiveness and inability to always blend seamlessly into society with the sheepdog perseveres because they know that a purposeful, a meaningful life is much more important than being liked by everybody. Now, you don't have to be a soldier or a police officer to be a sheepdog. Anyone can take on that role simply by looking out for each other and doing the right thing, even if it goes against your sense of self-preservation. A great example of a sheepdog was a man named Tom Beamer. He was a passenger on Flight 93, which, if you remember, was one of the hijacked planes in 9/11. When he was on that plane and he realized what was happening, he made a phone call to the operator to notify them that the plane was being hijacked. He then learned that 3 other planes were also hijacked, 2 of which flew into the Twin Towers and another one into the Pentagon. Once he learned what was going on, Todd dropped his phone and said, "Let's roll." At that point, he and a few other passengers confronted the hijackers, and during that moment, they transformed from sheep to sheepdogs and took on the wolves. It ultimately cost them their lives, but because of their selfless action, they saved the lives of many people on the ground, none of which they actually knew. Unlike real sheep and wolves and sheepdogs in nature, we are not born into a certain role. We are born persons of free will, and it is up to each and every one of us to decide how we're going to live, whether we're going to be sheep, a wolf, or the sheepdog to protect the sheep from the wolves. Some of us chose to live as a sheepdog and stand toe-to-toe against the wolf in defense of the sheep, and I especially think it's important to stand up for those that cannot stand up for themselves. Being able to stand up for yourself and for others leads me to my third and final principle, principle, and that is simply don't forget to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be very useful to anyone else. Over the years, I've seen people neglect themselves simply because of their efforts to take care of and the wants and needs of everyone else around them. Even though they had the best of intentions, their results proved to be counterproductive. I've always told my people that they need to make time for self-improvement and for bettering themselves. For example, if I didn't make time each and every day to work out because I get too busy, then my health would deteriorate and I wouldn't be able to take care of my family like they deserve. If you're a professional and you don't make an effort to master your craft, how are you going to be able to effectively coach, teach, and mentor those that you are leading? Just like on an airplane during a safety brief, when they instruct parents to put on their own oxygen masks before helping their children put theirs on, initially it can seem selfish, but really you're doing nobody any good if you're dead, right? The bottom line is you should take appropriate steps to be the best version of yourself you can possibly be. Not just for yourself, but for those that depend on you. The better you are, the more capable you are to take care of those around you. In closing, I'll just remind you to maintain a good perspective on life, which I know is easier said than done. I have to remind myself of that daily. Be a sheepdog and stand up to the wolves, and take care of yourselves, or at a minimum, don't neglect yourself. I appreciate the opportunity to come see you all today. Thank you for everything. Take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you.
Thank you.